Well, hey, this is James Riley.
And Beth Riley.
And we've got a really exciting edition of our Artist Spotlight podcast series. Beth, who we have?
Today we have Fred Hostetler.
How you doing, Fred?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you.
How have you been spending your time during this pandemic?
I got back a couple of years ago after being gone for 17 years out of the USA. And so I felt like I had a lot of things I wanted to do in music that I never got to do. I never had a solo career. I was always in bands or working with other people. And so there's some things I wanted to do. And so I started recording a couple of years ago, just as much as I can. And that's what I'm doing now, on my little laptop here in the room. So that's how I've been spending my time. And even as you called, I'm working on my next EP. It's almost done. Just working on some vocals. And so my time, I'm just spending as much time as I can digging into the music and getting it out there. Boom, 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 boom.
You had mentioned bands that you had been in before. Tell us about the band Blue by Nature.
Blue by Nature was really great. In the 80s, it really got difficult. In the mid-80s on, oh my gosh, we were in Los Angeles then, and Karen Lawrence, who I was working with, we had done a couple of albums together, and we just couldn't do it. Nobody wanted to hear anything. So we said, well, let's go back to our roots. That was blues. And so we got this, everything just fell together, and we got this blues band called Blue by Nature together. And it was, at that time, we were in corporate, it was sort of blues rock in a way. So we had to walk a fine line, with the blues purists. But now it's perfectly acceptable. Another person who did that, who we knew at the same time we played the same places, but he was huge in Europe, was Walter Trout. We played the same venues there in Los Angeles and down in Huntington Beach in Southern California. And Karen sang with right before COVID. So that band was really great. That was really a great live band. I think the best. Ended with the best, and that's the way I felt about that band. We were able to play all our original stuff and play in clubs. That's really difficult. It doesn't usually happen, but it was powerful enough and original enough, but yet familiar enough that we were widely accepted. One of the most popular bands in the Southern California area. And we released an album called Blue by Nature, Blue to the Bone, and Jack Douglas, a famous producer, did that. So that was really great. That's when you could sell CDs where you played and you could actually make money. So that ended about the year 2000, and we did 3 albums, one a double live CD, and they're still chugging along on Spotify and things like that. Karen's been sending me songs, so maybe we'll do another single.
You spent a lot of years in India. What inspired you to go there, and what was that experience like?
When Blue by Nature broke up in 1999, it's 1999, it's 2000, it's the turn of the century, and I just thought, I've been doing this a long time, and it's really time to get a perspective, and it just happened. It broke up. Okay, fine. Let's do some inner searching and some inner work and get a perspective on life, and so off I went, and that turned into 17 years of doing voluntary service, and I was it's like an ashram, but it's all faiths. And we did water projects and set up free computer classes and sewing classes. And I also edited about 25 books for the person who was heading the ashram, who writes books. And so that's how I spent my life there. And it was great. I was out, not in a city, out on about 7 acres. And there was about a 12-foot wall around the place. So it was pretty quiet. I still played guitar almost every day there. So that's what I did. And then it was time to come back. But I missed a lot, I'll tell you. From the year 2000 to 2017, a lot happened.
That's true.
It's a pretty big leap to come back and then to get up to speed with technology. Wow. I'm still struggling with it. But it's fantastic. I'm sitting here with my MacBook Pro and, recording into it. To have so much power here. I was used to record, in regular studios with tape, analog. And that's great. but who can afford it
Yeah.
after being gone and not working for 17 years and just doing voluntary work. But I'm getting along fine and enjoying it and really having a good time. And I try to keep my music sort of value-oriented.
You had mentioned books earlier. You have written some books, too. What could people expect to read from you?
Well, mostly I was editing books that were Hindu spiritual books. The book I wrote was sort of a travel adventure. It's true that was in India when I first started going over there. It describes some experiences there, and it's got humorous things happen there. What can you say? That's why everybody goes to India, because it's got a different kind of mentality. Things that are unusual take place there a lot. It's not for everybody.
You mentioned working with some other artists too, and you definitely worked with some big name people: Aerosmith, Billy Squier, Buddy Guy, The Knack, Johnny Winters, so many others. How do you prepare going into each project? Because each one you're doing something different, whether it's songwriting or you're recording on there too. How do you approach these projects?
Well, some of the people that are listed there, it's just that we were on the same bill. Like Buddy Guy, we were the performer before him, for instance, at a blues festival in Southern California. So sometimes it's that. When it's people that are like, The Knack had hit record, and that usually happened because I sang background vocals for them, or I did something. They needed something, and I was available and around, and so I got called. And that's pretty much, you just listen and you go in and do it. However, I think working with Jeff Beck, that was preparation. And we got a call, Karen Lawrence and myself. Jeff Beck was recording, and they called and said, "We need help. With this song. We don't have a lyric. It has to be finished. It's going to be the B-side of a single." That single was "People Get Ready" with Rod Stewart.
Sure.
On one, and Jeff Beck, and then on the B-side, he had this song, and he didn't know. Rod didn't have any lyrics. They couldn't come up with any. But there's a time deadline, so they called Karen and I. So we were up all night writing a song to his track, and that song came out to be "Back on the Streets," and that's included on his collection albums and all that stuff. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the most fun things. And meeting him and working with him, that was a big thrill, and he was there in person. Sometimes you go in and you're recording and there's maybe one band member there or something, or sometimes no band member. It's just their producer. But meeting him, he's just quiet, and he was a lot of fun, in his real subtle way. So that was an unusual one. That took preparation. I was up all night on my little 8-track, working on the lyric and then singing it, and then we finally got it at about 2 a.m, and she has to sing, so she has to have rest. Singers have to sleep or their voices get trashed.
So how would you describe your style? We won't ask you about your influences, but how would you describe your style?
You can ask me. It's all right. My style, that's almost as hard, because the album I just finished was, that's just living room blues. I'm sitting in my blue chair, Fred's blue chair blues. There's a mic thrown up. It's just raw, and it's just going to be the way it is, as if somebody's sitting there during COVID times and I'm singing to them. Come over, I'll sing you some songs, and that's the way it is. There's mistakes. There's little things there. Sometimes the vocal's not up loud enough. So in a way, I just wanted to just do it like it is if you're at home. Sometimes there's a mistake, and it's fun. How did you recover from that mistake and still keep going?
Yeah.
Like a live, it's almost live in that way. It's just live. There's not any overdubbing. There's no nothing. It's just a take. And I also did them with video going at the same time. That made it doubly fun, I'll tell you. In a way, I like that simple, just down-home blues. I did some slide songs, and it's mostly original. One song I did on there that's a Jimmy Reed classic. Bright Lights, Big City. I always loved that song ever since I first bought that album. I grew up near Chicago, and my dad took me up there when I was a youngster on the train, and he went down to pawn shops down there, and you've seen pictures of black men sitting out there with a guitar amps like Muddy Waters started. I don't think it was Muddy Waters who I saw, but I'll never forget. He took me down there and they were out there playing away. So that's sort of in me. That's one thing I like, to keep it simple. But on the other hand, I've been through the whole rock and all the way through, and I've been playing and active. That's in me also. The new EP I'll come out with, that gets more produced. I sort of get stuck in the old production ways sometimes of rock. So that's there. I don't know. I like it all. And I'm really interested in the way they are, producing things now, and wondering, and blues too. They're producing blues cuts in a very interesting, modern sort of way. That is really cool. I listen to, there's some Folkstone radio. There's so much radio on that's internet radio. And they're playing all kinds of tracks from independent artists and from all over the world. And it's really interesting to see what they're doing. And they call it blues. And, well, it's like modern blues in its way. It builds on those basics. It has an interesting, more modern kind of attitude because it's not the same as it was. There's not railroad trains running down there and you're jumping a car and going for a ride for a few miles at least, like we did when I was in college. I really like that part of it, and that's intriguing to me. And so, there's rock in there, and there's blues rock, and then it's back to just acoustic blues, Delta sort of blues. I mean, I don't call it Delta blues. That's what the reviewers are calling it, so okay, whatever, I don't know. I'm not a reviewer. I'm a musician.
So name an artist that you wish that you could work with that you haven't had a chance to work with yet.
Well, I'd love to do a track with Walter Trout. That would be fun because I'd like him to, maybe he can help us out with our Blue by Nature track, to have a guest guitarist come in like him. We'll see.
Oh, there you
go. Well, he already said he'd do that. He already told us, sure. It's difficult in COVID times to do things, but we'll see what happens with this stuff. You can do it long distance. That's the way I have to do some things. It's not the same, especially with blues, sort of. It's fun to be there with the group. I'd like to do some work with my friend Eric Troyer, he's another guy that's worked with many people. He's never done his own. He has an electric light orchestra. It's called the Orchestra now. And they tour all over. And it's the old Electric Light Orchestra, the original band, and he leads that band, and that's who I grew up with, and we played together in the early years. That would be fun to do an album with him. John Lennon called him the voice because he sings on everybody's tracks in New York. He's Celine Dion. And, of course, John Lennon's last album, he sang on that, and Meatloaf and Billy Joel, and, he sung on all kinds of hit records. But he hasn't done anything himself, but I love working with him, so maybe I will get a chance I want him to do one song I have. It's half written. Maybe I'll get a chance and do that as a single with him. But that at this point in life, I'm happy. I just feel more like I want to do what I want to do as a singer-songwriter and sort of end that chapter, and then that'll be it.
We've got a couple fun questions that we ask people, and they're ones that probably change daily, and your answers might change, an hour from now. But I'll ask you one, and Beth will do one. The first one here is, we always talk about the kind of daydream about going back to different time periods and time travel. Now, if you had that capability, is there a time that you'd like to go back to, whether it's a year, a day, or a decade, whatever?
I'll tell you this. I'm going to give you this one because I'm writing a song right now for when I do my next blues album, after this one that I'm doing now. The next one, I'm writing a song right now. It's half done. And that boyhood dreams, pinball machines, that's going back to the 50s. That was great. The late 50s was really fun, and into the 60s when I was very young. That's the heart of it, So that was great. Going back to some other time period, no, not for me. But And we have a place where I live too, and I have the key to the arcade, and they have about 50 machines in there. And I walk up there, and even though it's COVID, no one's there, but they gave me the key. I go up there and I can play pinball machine when I take a break from recording.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick 3 to 5 albums to take with you to like a desert island, what albums would you take?
I suppose Blonde on Blonde, Bob Dylan.
Sure.
And I got to have something by the Beatles. Maybe the White Album.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much there. You said what LP? So I'm naming all the double LPs I can think of.
There you go. Well, yeah, that works.
I'm breaking the rules. I'm going around the edge here with and then as we go on up, I start falling back into blues stuff, and then that really gets tough.
Oh, sure.
I got to have something. I'd rather get a collection, really. All those guys, all the buddies, Son House, and all the Roots guys, Holland Wolf, tracks from him, and tracks from Muddy Waters, Bo Diddley too. I grew up loving him.
Sure.
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
You had mentioned you're working on an EP, but anything else coming up for you? Do you have anything else in the works?
Well, this one album has just been out there. The person who I work with, he's mailing out CDs yet. He hasn't even really started on that. But there's going to be this EP. I'm not sure what the name of it's going to be, but it's almost finished. And I can't wait around to release stuff. I want to move on. So whatever happens out there. If somebody likes it, that makes me feel great. And I love, talking to you guys. And I'm really lucky to be able to be on your show, and I enjoy listening to the interviews I've heard also.
Where's the best place for people to go to find out information for you? Tell about your website address and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, my name is there under Fred Hostetler, Hostetler. You can just go to Mr. Google, and if you want to put musician in there, but then all the stuff comes up if you Google it. I'm on Facebook under that name. And then my website is Fred's Heart Radio, all fredsheartradio.com,
okay.
All lowercase. And that's enough to get you started. And I'm on YouTube. Same thing on YouTube. I've got a lot of videos up from the new album, and I have videos for all those tracks. I have maybe 4 or 5 up now. Nobody buys anything. They just go and look for it on Spotify or YouTube these days. So, okay, go ahead. I invite you, free. Go ahead. There's no money to be made there right now.
Fred, we want to thank you very much for your time and taking the time to sit and talk with us today.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much. It's been great to be on your show, and I wish you all the best of luck. Are you musicians too?
I can't play or sing at all. She can sing.
I can sing. I can't play.
She sings. Yeah, okay. Anyhow, all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.